Hey everyone, it's Win. Welcome back to another art diary video. Happy to have you here and I hope you're all doing well. This month I created some artworks for the university magazine Opus, and that was a lot of fun. I also experimented with a couple of other things, but that'll be in the next art diary videos. So if you enjoy this series, please consider subscribing. That would be really cool. But yeah, without further ado, let me show you what I got up to this month. The artworks I created for the student media magazine were loosely, and I mean very loosely, based off the seasons of the year. The picture you are currently seeing me draw is the summer artwork. I enjoyed creating the composition of this. It was just sort of fun to piece together all the little elements, the clouds, the man, the sun, and the woman. But yeah, as for most of the stuff I make, I used black watercolor and ink pens as my medium of choice. But you can sort of notice as I'm drawing here on this particular artwork that my pens were drying out, which was super frustrating, so I had to go and get some new ones. I was working towards a deadline with these artworks, so I did take them with me on the go to university and other places like that to continue working on them. So I don't have full footage of me creating all 4 artworks, but I do have a large enough majority of the footage. So here's the final, or there was the final product. Up next is the spring artwork. A lot of people really liked this one when I posted like progress footage to my Instagram story. A lot of people seem to really like this one. I think it's quite a fun composition. I really like the bird overarching everything. It's a bit busier in comparison to the other art drawings, but that's sort of what I wanted, because I feel like spring is abundant and everything's blooming, etc, etc. So yeah, this one was a lot of fun to make. I think this one was probably the second most time consuming, but yeah, I really enjoyed it, and I like the way the watercolor creates a bit of emphasis around the bird and a bit of depth, which you will see shortly. For this particular piece, I really wanted to encapsulate the whimsy goth vibe, and yeah, I tried to balance out the imagery a little. I feel like the bird and the skeleton holding the bouquet is quite cool. It's quite funny in a way. It's almost like romantic goth. Something like that. I don't know. I just thought it's fun. But yeah, I would really enjoy owning a pair of stockings like I've drawn on this woman. That would be cool. I'm pretty much consistently using the same ink pen, and it was quite a fine pen. I think it would have been a 0.5, something along those lines. And yeah, so different textures for different elements of the drawing. I created by using different strokes of the pen. So for the bird, I used sort of wispy lines that were sort of going in opposite directions, and well, no, they're going more or less in the same direction, but their points were going like swerving off in a way just to create a little bit of a ruffled texture. I do the same thing with the cat in the picture, and then for the skeleton I use a lot of cross-hatching to get sort of a very textured look. For the woman's hair, I just build up straight lines more or less, but following the curvature or the shape of her hair. I've done this for a long time. It looks nice to build up certain highlights, but it doesn't work for everything. Definitely doesn't work for everything. I see some people say not to draw every individual strand of hair and to think of the hair more as like in parts and sort of block out the different sections of the hair, which I agree with this advice, but I think that advice applies more to when you're sketching hair, because you're not going to get very far sketching a person's hair if you draw every single strand. But I feel like when you're shading, and when you're shading with pencil and pen, then doing those motions where you're almost, drawing every strand of hair, you're not necessarily, you're sort of just going up and down along the hair, but it gives the illusion or the detail of lots of strands of hair. Tangent over, I started playing Animal Crossing this month. I've never really been able to get into the game because of how slow paced it is and the real time element. Like, I love Stardew Valley, and I think part of the reason why I love Stardew Valley is because I can accomplish so much in one sitting, but I thought of giving Animal Crossing another try, so yeah, I thought it could be just something nice and fun to decorate an island while I watch a movie or something that's not that interesting. I don't know, just something I thought I would try and get into. So yeah, maybe I would do a Animal Crossing themed video in the future, or island tour. That could be fun. This artwork with the moon is supposed to be the drawing representative of winter, and I really like this one. I was really happy with the outcome. You can see I started sketching in a figure, and I had this idea in my head originally, but I ended up changing the concept a little bit, so which I think is totally fine. I think quite often we want to try and execute something, and we start executing it, and then we get a better idea midway, and I feel like it's okay to be flexible enough to roll on with changes in stuff like this. It's not really that deep, and I mean, it's not teamwork, so your changes don't really have any repercussions on others. I think sometimes when we're very focused on results in creative practices, we lose touch with just being organic, which I felt like this piece was quite organic. Sorry, I don't have a lot of footage because, like I mentioned earlier in the video, I was working to a deadline, so I was a little stressed out when I was making this, so I was taking it with me around, and yeah, so when I was working on it, I didn't really get to record, but enjoy the parts that I did record. Okay, and the last one. I have mixed feelings about this one. This one is supposed to be autumn. It doesn't really have much of an autumn theme, it just kind of works somehow. Anyway, but I like the concept. I think the concept is really cool. I might try to redraw this digitally or paint this, because I feel like it would probably look a bit better if it were a painting, because it's not really as detailed as the other drawings in comparison. But it took me a while to sort of figure out the concept, but it was also quite organic, It just sort of all came together, sort of jigsaw falling into place moment. It all coalesced eventually, but originally I wanted to try and draw a scarecrow in the image because I was like, oh, that's kind of autumn imagery. But yeah, I was sort of more trying to think of what we associate autumn with in the southern hemisphere, and I could only think of very cliche things like leaves turning red and brown and etc, etc. So I ended up just going with a completely different concept of like a seamstress, but like plot twist, she does voodoo magic or something. I don't know, I think it looks cool anyway. But yeah, that's all of the art I made.